here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to call and hang with us. Now joining us is the former Pittsburgh Panthers quarterback and current 93.7 The Fan's color analyst for Pittsburgh Panthers football, and that's Pat Bostick. Pat, Zach Gelb here at Temple Sports Hour. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on. And I don't know if you know this, but one of my good friends in the Pittsburgh area is Greg Giannotti, and I know you do work with him. Give me the scouting report. I think it's going to be the toughest question I may ask you in this interview about Greg Giannotti, the announcer.
You know, Greg's our sideline guy now and does a fabulous job with the Fan Morning Show, and we're happy to have him. He brings some fresh ideas and some great stuff, and he's been awesome on the sideline. He weathered the storm last week at Buffalo. It was brutal out. The rain was going sideways. It was windy. But he still did his job. He's a classic pro, and it's good to hear that if you're hanging with guys like him, I'm fortunate enough to, and I know you're close with him. That's some good company to keep.
Well, Greg is a real funny guy. I remember when he was at WFAN in New York, he did these impersonations of Mike Francesa, Tom Coughlin, Joe Beninga was always a legendary one, and whenever he comes on this show, I make him do a different impersonation. Has he been able to perfect a Pat Bostick impersonation yet?
I'm sure he does. I don't know if he's comfortable enough with me yet to do it in front of me, but he's got some great impressions of E.J. Borghetti, our sports information director, and some great impressions of some of the local media personalities here in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, Greg's got one for everything, and it's a riot. It's a riot. It never gets old.
You played the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Panthers just a few years ago. What's been the toughest part from transitioning from the field up into the announcing booth?
You know, probably just not being in the film room every day and not being around it every day. I'm a guy that thrives on knowledge, so to not feel like I know every single thing is tough because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But the other tough part about it is being critical of some of my former teammates and guys I know and friends of mine. But I found comfort knowing that I'm not saying anything on the broadcast that they're not hearing from their coaches, and to be fair and responsible and just be kind of unbiased is my job, and that's been a transition. But now in year 2, I feel very comfortable with where I'm at, and I feel like my broadcasting abilities and skills have been enhanced over the past year.
And that's the toughest part when I look at it for a color analyst is they have to be critical, and usually those guys, they've had some affiliations with the teams that they've called the games for. Have you ever got like a ludicrous text message or a phone call from a former teammate or a former coach saying, "Why are you criticizing me?" Something like that? Not from any former teammates or coaches, and I make a point of being fair, and if I do say something or if I'm critiquing something, I make a point to if I see that person. Just to make sure they know that it's not something I wouldn't say to their face either. So I've always took pride in being very upfront with people, even as a player, as a quarterback. I think that's important. And I don't feel like I've ever said anything outlandish, something that someone would consider unfair, because I'm an equal opportunity guy, and I just call it as I see it. So I haven't to this point. I've heard from fans before saying I'm too nice, but that's okay. I'd rather be too nice than be a jerk. For you, what was your most memorable moment playing at Pittsburgh? What game stands out to you and says, "Oh, that was my best game," or "That was our team's best game"? What was that game for you?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I played in a couple pretty cool games. As a true freshman, I played down in Morgantown, beat West Virginia 13-9 when they were ranked number 2 in the country, and we're headed to the national championship game. So I was fortunate enough to be a part of that one and to start that game at quarterback with LaShawn McCoy, who you all in Philly are very familiar with.
Of course.
And I'm from Lancaster County, played against him in high school when he was in Harrisburg at McDevitt. So fortunate enough to see that. And also, we went to Notre Dame in 2008, the year following, and I came off the bench and started, and we beat Notre Dame in 4 overtimes, the longest game in Notre Dame Stadium history. So I've been fortunate enough to be behind center for 2 of the biggest wins in recent memory here at Pitt, and feel very honored and still reflect on those moments quite fondly and have to pinch myself.
We're talking to Pat Bostick, and Pat, you look at this Pittsburgh team, they've been able to struggle up against these Big East teams. They're 0-3. What's the reason when you look at this team for their struggles in the Big East?
I think it's been, you really hone down on situations. Red zone efficiency against Cincinnati, had opportunities to make that game a ball game going into halftime with opportunities inside the 10-yard line. They weren't able to get any points either time. And obviously the sacks have been an issue, pressure on the quarterback. Big plays have been problematic for the Panthers defensively. They've shored up, though, the past 5 games. but big plays against Louisville. You saw it 2 weeks ago. They came out of the second half. Pitt was up, and it was a 17-14 ball game, if I remember correctly. And they came out of the bat and scored 24 unanswered points. And big plays from Teddy Bridgewater throwing the football down the field, huge plays, 4th and 8 conversion. So those big plays and taking advantage of opportunities to kind of stop that momentum the other team's getting. Football often comes down to 5 or 6 plays, and those plays in those tight games have yet to go the Panthers' way.
And the Panthers have two very dynamic running backs in Graham and Shell. You look at those two backs, can they continue success going up against this Temple front seven? Because you see Tyler Medikevich, he always has a plethora of tackles. Nate D. Smith always finds a way to get his nose on the football. How do you like those two running backs going up this week against Temple's front seven?
I really like Temple's front seven. I think they're active, they're young. And that defense having replaced 4 all-conference guys from last year, and I think 4 or 5 returning starters. But as you mentioned, those two freshmen, Medikevich and Smith, are all over the place. I mean, making tackle after tackle. They're top 2 in tackles on the team, 48, 46 respectively. I do like these backs. I think Pitt's offensive line has struggled a little bit, and Temple will give you a lot of looks. They'll come from different angles against you, and they'll bring pressure. And you got to be able to pick that up in the run game. When you're able to pick it up, you can crease them. But these linebackers, they fast flow, they make plays. I think, we saw against Rutgers last week, Rutgers had a little bit of success with toss, outside zone, getting on the perimeter of that defense, kind of getting those guys caught inside. If you're able to do that, I like the success with Ray Graham outside, and I think Russell Shell gives you a little bit more of a change of pace inside. If they can get that defense flowing, which they did against Virginia Tech, you get a young defense flowing side to side, there's going to be cutback lanes. That's the best way I think Pitt will have success running the football.
This Owl secondary is very decimated. They've been killed with injuries all year long. Von Carroy missed last week because he was actually suspended by the Big East. That was on another note from a hit that he put on the UConn player. But you see this secondary, it's not a strong point of this team. Can we see some more Tino Sinceri this week? I know this Pittsburgh's passing game is very prolific.
It is. It's been very good. Devin Street and Mike Shanahan are both leading the conference in 2 categories, receptions and yards per game. Shanahan leading in the yards per game category, with Street leading in the receptions category, and they were hampered last week. It was, like I said, it was raining cats and dogs, and it was windy, so it was difficult throwing the football. But I think they're going to have to. I think this team more than ever is going to have to throw sometimes to set up the run, regardless of what they would like to do. They'd like to build the foundation running the football, but I can see some. Given what Temple's going to give you structurally, they're going to bring pressure. You got to be able to beat pressure with the pass to loosen them up to get them out of those blitzes. So I think you're going to see a lot of Tino Sinceri. Hopefully, first and second down efficiency throwing the football will put them in nice third down situations, because Temple also has a good third down package. So I can see them going to the air early and pretty often.
Temple's coming off a real tough loss because they played the number 15 team in the nation. They were better than them, 10 points better than them. In the second half, they just came out, and it was just such a deflating loss because they didn't even show up. After a real rigorous loss that this team is coming off of, as a player, how do you regroup and get ready for this game coming up on Saturday?
You have to have a short memory. We had a tough loss in week 2 against Cincinnati and came back the following week and beat Virginia Tech at home. You just have to kind of put it behind you, learn from the mistakes. And, again, as I said before, it's not – when you look at any football game, when you got a good football team, which Temple does have a good football team, you're going to look at a game and see 5 or 6 plays that if you make them or stop the opponent, it's a change in the ball game. I don't think that was a 35-10. I don't think that score it might have been indicative of the second half, but not the entire game. Watching that football game, Temple was in it. But a couple of plays here and there, a turnover, those types of things are what gets you. So you got to till your own land first. Make sure you're eliminating those mistakes and respond accordingly. Get into another football game. I think this team has some confidence and some leadership, so I'm sure they'll respond.
Pat Bostick does a phenomenal job for 93.7. The Fan is the color analyst for Pittsburgh football. And Pat joins us right now here on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Zach Gelb here with you on Temple Sports Hour. And let's get to the Temple Owls offense. Montel Harris has been the real strong back for this team this year, coming over from BC. I think he's the best back that Pittsburgh has faced all year. How will this defense fare up against Montel?
It'll be interesting. Well, first of all, it's not just him. That quarterback, Hoyer, is as fast as any quarterback I think Pitt's going to see all year, and they struggled containing mobile quarterbacks. Not too long ago at Cincinnati, they had a difficult time containing him. He had a 70-yard run in the second half. They had a difficult time last week containing Alex Zordich at Buffalo, who gave them some trouble. So I think Coyer presents a problem, and those two kind of feed off of each other in that zone read when they get into that shotgun run game. But I do think Montel Harris is extremely talented and quick. I think Matt Brown complements him well, too, not only as a returner, but when he gets in there, obviously Kenny Harper as well. So they've got a very dynamic running game. It does centralize around Montel Harris, and I like the way he runs. He's quick. He's got some physical power. So they're going to have to first contain Coyer and try to keep the ball between the tackles. But when they do that, they're certainly going to have to be ready to get off blocks and tackle Harris, because he's a formidable running back. He's one of the best in the conference, and I think he's as advertised. There's a reason it leads the country in 100-yard games.
Chris Coyer is the quarterback of this team for now, but he was pulled at the end of that Rutgers game, and they put in Juice Granger. Granger has been getting some first-team reps through the course of practice this week. I know it isn't early in the week, but do you believe that Pittsburgh is preparing for both Coyer and Juice just in case if things get early for the Temple Owls in this game, that maybe you do see the backup quarterback come in to relieve Coyer of his duties?
Yeah, well, you always prepare for what a team might do schematically and from a personnel standpoint. And obviously you saw that at the end of a rather lopsided scoring game against Rutgers, whether that's indicative of a quarterback controversy. I haven't been able to follow it as closely as probably I should have. But I think Granger, he might give them a little bit more of a passing attack, which they struggled at, averaging 122 yards a game. That's the worst in the Big East. And they total out their numbers haven't been too good offensively. They do offset that with a fairly prolific run game. They're 68% run, 32% pass. That's rather predictable. And their third down efficiency has been dismal at 33%. So they obviously have to find a way to throw the football. And if that means a little bit of change up at quarterback using two, I don't know, whether Coach Dazio is up for that or wants to do that. But I'm certain that the Panthers are going to have to be prepared for both, because obviously that certainly is a storyline from last week.
You're absolutely right. This Owls team on the offensive side of the ball is very predictable. I could guarantee you, Pat, that come the first play of the series, this is what you'll see. You'll see a run, a pass, and a punt. This kicker, Brandon McManus, he does the kicking and the punting for the Temple Owls, one of the best kickers in the nation, but you see him on the field way too much. That's a problem for the Temple Owls.
It is. And certainly, he's one of 8 guys, I think, in the country that does punts, not only punts and kicks, but kicks off. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
He'll be a pro.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. I mean, he did a 68-yard punt against Rutgers last week.
Yeah, it's incredible. He puts up usually more yards through the air punting the ball than the offense does on the ground and through the air. It's incredible what McManus has been able to do.
Yeah, and this Temple needs to mix things up on first and second down. They like to boot Coyer a lot. They probably boot him 10 times a game. Whether that means you're going to use the other guy to get some drop back and some. They've also struggled with some drops too watching games. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether they're able to mix things up.
Pat, I love you Pittsburgh guys. Gianotti's always great to me, and you are as well. I appreciate the time. Let's get you on again real soon and enjoy the game coming up this Saturday.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it, man.